welcome back to Practice Intimacy. Today we are going to be digging a little bit deeper into intellectual intimacy. That is the first category of the 5 different areas of intimacy, and I plan on going over all 5 during the months of January and February, so stay tuned. You'll get to hear more in depth about the other ones, but just if this is your first time watching any videos, I'm going to go through them very briefly. So there's intellectual intimacy, the ability to share ideas in a way that feels respectful and non-judgmental. There's emotional intimacy, understanding your emotions, being able to express your emotions, being able to listen to, take in, and empathize with other people's emotional experience. There's physical intimacy, dealing with the physical health of your body. This is things like sleep, food, exercise. How does my body feel, and what might it need from me in order to feel as good as possible? There's sexual intimacy, dealing with desire, eroticism, sensuality, the sharing of sexual energy and experiences between people. And then there's spiritual intimacy. Spiritual intimacy is not about religion. It's not about any particular faith practice. What I mean when I say spiritual intimacy is there is some kind of connection to a force greater than oneself. So that could look like a deep connection to art, nature. It could be religious, it could be community, it could be social justice movements, just some kind of deep connection to any type of experience that is larger than just the individual human. It's dealing with the interconnectedness of all people and the planet and other beings, and how we take care of each other in that. It's spiritual intimacy. Today I'm going to give you a practice that you could potentially do with intellectual intimacy, and in the future we'll have other practices that you might want to incorporate into your life when it comes to intellectual intimacy. So, as always, intimacy starts with you. You are the most important factor in all of this. The more full you are when it comes to intimacy, connection, feeling deeply inwardly settled, feeling incredibly connected to yourself, leads to incredible, satisfying connections with others. And so before ever attempting to bring intimacy outside of yourself, how are you feeding yourself in these different areas? Intellectually, are you reading? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you watching shows that feed you rather than shows that are numbing and turning off and having a brainless night? Which those are good sometimes too. We need those just as much as anything else. But there are certainly programs out there that'll cause you to think. And I don't just mean watching the Nature Channel and getting facts and things like that, but I recently watched Ted Lasso. Freaking love Ted Lasso. If you have not seen it, you will hear me talk about it. Go watch it. It is amazing. And it had me thinking about, oh wow, that is a perfect example of how to do an apology well. Or what a beautiful way to connect with people when you're the leader and you're wanting to bring out the most potential in another human being that you possibly can. Those are intellectual intimacy moments that I got from watching a show on, I think it's on Apple, and it's fantastic. You can have so many different areas where you're filled up intimately, and in this case, it's brain intimacy. It's the different things that feed your mind and thoughts and create interest for you intellectually. So the practice, the thing that is important when engaging in intellectual intimacy, especially if we're attempting to have intellectual intimacy with another person or with a new subject matter, the thing to remember is What makes this respectful and non-judgmental is an openness and curiosity. It's not looking at information from a place of, I already know this, or this doesn't apply to me, or this doesn't interest me, it's not my jam, which could be true, and that's okay. But if you write things off immediately, you might be missing opportunities to find something new and exciting for you, or beneficial to you. Maybe it's not exciting, but maybe it'll be a moment where you have an aha, and suddenly something in your life makes sense, and it changes the way you look at the world. So, what does it actually look like to be open, receptive, curious? And what does it feel like? So I personally have a practice around this one. It's my intellectual intimacy practice. And I do this when I'm watching or listening to content. And I do this whenever I'm having discussions with people. So I ask myself the question, what could I learn from this? What is possible for me to take from this that I can use in my life somehow? And let me give you some examples. Ted Lasso is one example of how I'm thinking to myself, like, how can I use this? I'm absolutely going to use this example with my clients when I need to talk about a really well-crafted apology and what it looks like to forgive somebody when they do make a real apology. That is something I learned in that moment that I could take from it. In other spaces, so some of my interest, and as I continue recording things, I'll pull from these different interests all the time. I'm primarily trained as a psychotherapist. I did many years of therapy training, including getting a master's and a 3-year internship that everyone has to go through when you get a license. It's 3,000 hours of working with clients. And in that time, I was mostly learning information about how emotional systems work, how relational systems work, how the brain works. And then, of course, because of my interest in sexuality, I also moved into a space of, okay, how does the body work in relation to all of these different things? What's important to know about our nervous system and our different organs and how they interact with sexuality and pleasure. So some of my interests come from the therapy world, and then other interests come from the scientific world. I'm a little bit of a neuroscience nerd. I actually love neuroscience. A lot of it goes over my head, but just as I don't want to be judgmental towards myself, I don't want to be disrespectful towards myself, thinking I won't understand this, or there's no way I'm ever going to get anything out of this. I read as much as I can, and I take in the things that I get, and I leave the rest of it. I'm asking myself that question, what can I learn from this? These are all my intellectual pursuits. These are the things I'm interested in. What about for you? What are the things that you're interested in? What matters to you? Where do you draw information from? It can be a broad range of things. Just like I am interested in neuroscience and poetry, and they both feed me intellectually, and they both give me such good information, they're very different. You might have similar things. Another way that I use this idea of what can I learn from this is in disagreements. So if I stay in a more intellectually intimate space where I am attempting to have a respectful conversation that is free of judgment, and I'm asking myself the question, what can I learn from this? There's two things that I'm usually doing there. One is stay compassionate and a little less judgmental, rather than moving into what a jerk, or they just don't get it. Ugh, how can they not understand this? All of those thoughts. Rather than doing that, it helps me to remember, like, okay, they have different information. Their belief system is different. They are exposed to different media than me, and they read different things, and they listen to different people. It's okay that we have different points of view. I don't have to change their point of view. I am pretty sure they will not change mine, and that's okay. Maybe they will in some ways, which is where that piece comes in. What can I learn from this? If I'm asking myself, what can I learn from this interaction, then it is possible that I could actually get something really valuable out of it. I also have the experience of when I ask myself, what can I learn from this? Rather than being judgmental of their different viewpoint, it gives me a chance to listen to, okay, where are they coming from? What's important to them in this moment? Is it really that different than what's important to me? I don't have to change their mind. I don't have to fight with them about this. I can listen to their perspective from a place of respect and kindness and curiosity and still hold my position quite firmly. As you hear me saying that piece, I can have different ideas intellectually. I can hold my ideas firmly and not have to fight with other people about it. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be quiet and not say what I believe. No, I'm going to speak up about it. And I'm going to share my ideas with that person respectfully and calmly and in a manner that's not trying to make them think my way, but instead is just like, here's some information. What can you learn from it? Is there anything of value in this for you? That is my favorite practice around intellectual intimacy. Asking the question, what can I get from this? What value can I find in this? Not everything will resonate, and that's okay. But there might be one little piece of like, oh, new information. I haven't thought about it that way. Good to know. And each time you have those little moments internally with others, it creates more space inside of your mind. It's not as rigid and set in here's what I think, here's how it is, but instead it's going to be a little bit more open and spacious. And there's a potential for more growth, more collaboration, more shared experiences, more intimacy. Let me know how that practice goes for you. You can ask it with family members, with your spouse, with your children, at work. What can I get from this? We will be back next week and we will talk about emotional intimacy. And I'll give another practice for how to be a little bit more in tune with your emotions, how to express them more easily, how to take care of them also, because emotions can be overwhelming for lots of people, and how to empathize with others as well. There's so much great work out there about learning how to listen to other people's emotional experiences. And that's really one of the biggest skills needed in order to sustain a long-term, successful relationship with another person, whether that's a romantic partner or a friend or your kiddo. Okay, have a good night. Talk to you later.